Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, I am delighted and excited to have you join me this evening. And I have a special surprise for you. You may have met my friend and very talented individual, Harry Bear, before. I've had him on the show a couple of times over the years, and he was on this segment with A1R not that long ago. And we had such a great response. We thought we'd bring him back on. If you missed the other couple of shows, back on WNN as well as here, let me tell you a little bit about Carrie. He really is multifaceted and he is considered a wise man. Now, you've heard of wise woman, wise guy, not quite the same thing, but he really is a very wise individual, very learned. He had been trained in transcendental meditation. He has taught transcendental meditation, and he's actually created the way that I view it, honestly, is a university of higher learning. Now, he'll have the opportunity to share a lot about that this evening. And so be sure to get comfortable. And without any further ado, hi, Carrie, and welcome.
Hi, be here again.
So, fill in the blanks. I just gave a very quick bio. I mean, I left off Wall Street, I left off all the books. Like I said, wise man and very talented.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm a life coach. I became a teacher of transcendental meditation when I was 20 years of age. So that was about maybe 10 or 12 years ago. And okay, longer than that. And I trained teachers of TM as well. And then in 2010, I founded Higher Self-Healing Meditation. I found that the organization that was teaching TM was charging a fortune to learn it. And, it's such a beautiful and innocent, easy to learn technique. I adapted it to some extent and launched, really branded my own style of meditation, which, like TM, is effortless. And, one of the problems I think so many people have experienced with meditation is that it is difficult. I mean, that has always been the major bone of contention for many people who wanted to learn meditation, tried some form of meditation, and often gave up because they found it just too difficult to do.
I have to say, when I taught over at Nova University many moons ago, back in mid 90s, it was really fun for me because of that reason, believe it or not. People would come in and they'd say, I really want to learn this, but it's so difficult, it's so hard, and for me, it was a matter of paying attention to them more because we all learn in different ways. There's kinesthetic learning, there's visual learning, there's auditory, and that kind of came into play without my even realizing. I was just sharing some information from a Shakti Gawain that I connected with in respect to meditation and passed that on, and it evolved. Your introduction to meditation is different than mine. And I love the idea of having ease because that was so important to me for people to come in and not feel frustrated when they left. And I know there are a lot of teachers that say, oh, you have to do it this way, and it's very stiff and it's very rigid, and you have to follow rules too much. And I think you agree with that as well. Yes?
Yeah, here's the thing that's interesting. Every night when we put our heads on the pillow, turn the light out, we go from what we call the waking state of consciousness to a state we all know called sleeping. And that happens without any effort whatsoever. Now, for some people, they can hit the pillow and they're out in, a minute, and other people, it might take a half an hour. But the point I'm making that's important here is that at the moment that transition occurs from waking to sleeping, it happens without any effort on our part. In fact, any effort on our part will only interfere with this very natural, effortless process of going from one state of consciousness to the next. And that happens in the middle of the night too. At some point, we begin to have our eyes rapidly move and we move into what we call the dreaming state of consciousness. Those are the three states of consciousness that people are familiar with. The beauty of the meditation that I teach is that it allows us to go to a fourth state of consciousness called pure consciousness or transcendental consciousness. The yogis of India call it samadhi, which really means steady mind. And that happens also effortlessly.
Now, with these different states of consciousness, and we could go through the scientific side of it and talk about, when we're awake and we're talking as we are now, we're in beta, and then that higher state or going in deeper is beta, and then we go to delta and theta, and we can go a little further.
Mhm.
What is the similarity or what is the corollary between that and understanding those states of consciousness and what you're describing?
Well, I'm not exactly familiar with with each of the delta, beta, theta, et cetera, except to say that in the fourth state of consciousness, what occurs is that the brain waves are correlated between the left and the right side of the brain. I don't want to get into too much of the weeds of the science because people will often find that a little bit maybe complicated.
Mhm.
Except to say that the left side of the brain in right-handed people is pretty much associated with our rational nature, and the right side is more associated with our artistic, intuitive nature. The idea that the two can be integrated suggests almost kind of like what Leonardo da Vinci had, this great artist who was also a scientist. I'm not suggesting that if people learn the meditation I teach that they'll start painting the Mona Lisa. That's not likely going to happen. But there is a beautiful kind of integration that starts to occur. And the most important point that I really want to make here tonight is that the reason most meditation techniques are difficult is because they involve some kind of concentration or control of the mind. The mind naturally wants to go toward more pleasure. And the good news is
Mhm.
that deep within us is a field of unlimited happiness, really, peace, bliss, it's been called. In India, they call it ananda, bliss. And the mind wants to go in that direction. What happens in the higher self healing meditation that I teach is that with the use of a mantra that helps quiet the mind, the vibrations are such that the mind naturally moves in this direction and doesn't have to be controlled or concentrate to move in that direction.
Okay. So, going on the basis of the mind moving into that direction on its own, how do you facilitate? Do you just have people sit in a room and tell them to be quiet?
No, I think mothers do that, and maybe nuns do that, but no, I don't actually do that. The mantras that are used really help facilitate it. So it's not like they just sit and do nothing. They're using a vibration that has been known for, well, it's not like there's just one mantra. There are many mantras, but all of these mantras have the effect of quieting down the mind. I mean, let's face it, for millennia, mothers and grandmothers have used vibration,
Mhm.
lullabies, to help put children and grandchildren to sleep. The children, the little babies, they don't know what the lullaby and goodnight means. They hear something very soothing, and that soothing vibration helps move them from the waking state to the sleeping state. Like that, analogously, the mantras help move the mind of the meditator. Whether the meditator believes in this or not is not important.
Right.
It naturally will move the meditator from the waking state more toward that fourth state of consciousness.
All right. So if someone wants to get to this fourth state of consciousness, they can just do any mantra, or are there specific mantras? Because I, like that different sounds, different intonations have different frequencies,
That's
and
right.
specific frequencies put us into individual states. I mean, there's the solfeggio, if I'm saying it correctly, frequencies, for instance, that a lot of people are familiar with. You can actually look it up on YouTube in many different places. And they'll give you a particular number of a frequency and tell you, oh, this one helps you with love, or this one helps you with peace. Now, they don't specifically talk about shifting into that state, they just talk about outcome. So, can you clarify for a little bit as far as the difference between, let's say, the mantra with the idea that whether you believe it or not, you're just doing it, it happens? What is the difference between that frequency and, per se, a frequency that's just supposed to bring about the end result?
Well, in this case, the end result that these mantras are designed to produce are a calming down of the nervous system, a quieting of the mind, allowing the mind to experience greater silence, and being able to transcend the quietest level of the mind to experience this unbounded awareness that's deep within us. You don't have to believe in sleep to fall asleep. You don't
Sure.
have to. The other nice thing that's about the higher self-healing meditation that I teach is that it doesn't require any change in religious beliefs or philosophical beliefs or lifestyle or diet or anything along those lines, because what we're working on is something much more fundamental than that. It's the natural tendency of the mind to want to experience greater peace and greater happiness. And as I said earlier, the good news is that below the surface of the mind, we psychologists have said we use maybe a tenth of our potential. There's this vast reserve of deep silence deep within us, and what this meditation does is allow us to as if dive within. You can go to the Atlantic Ocean, like as both of us live near it. You can swim across it, or you can snorkel, or you could scuba dive. Scuba diving will allow you to go deep. Like that, the meditation that I teach will allow you to go deeper into the deeper, quieter places of the mind, where there's more energy, more peace, more creativity, and more happiness.
Because you teach this, because you have the education part, you train masters, teachers, as well as the individual. If someone wanted to reach you, do they go online? Do they call you? What's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, I mean, it can do either of those. I'd be happy to present. You could reach me at carriebayer22@gmail.com. You could call me at 845-664-1883. And if I'm not meditating, I'll pick up your call. I'd be happy to talk to you. I'm giving a free talk on Zoom. Can I say Zoom on Skype? I hope so. Uh, on Monday night, this coming Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. And if anybody wants to contact me, I'd be happy to give them, the Zoom logistic information to get into that free talk.
Let's clarify. Carrie is spelled Cary.
That's right. CARYBAYER
Okay.
22@gmail.com. My mom had a thing for Cary Grant.
All righty. Me too.
A lot of
Cool.
people did.
And would you be so kind as to do one of the mantras while we're listening, while we're live, so that people watching can understand? Because some people hear the word mantra and they're thinking that you have to get into yogi position and go Om and over and over and over. That's not exactly what you're talking about. Would you illustrate for us?
The answer is, well, you're right. It isn't that. And the meditation that I teach is really taught one-on-one. So the ability to do that here now in this setting really doesn't exist. I need to present a mantra to someone. The beautiful thing about that is it's interactive. So literally in the first minute of instruction, a person will have a deep experience. And I'll say, after just 15 seconds of their first meditation experience, I'll ask, was it easy? And I've taught many hundreds of people over the years, and not a single person has actually answered the question because
Okay.
their experience is so new and so different that they literally are silent. It's as if their breath, so to speak, was taken away. They just give me that look of awe, that kind of beautiful thing. So the answer, unfortunately, to your question is I can't do that now because it has to be done interactively. There's also a beautiful ceremony that's presented. This is part of a long tradition of great yoga teachers who have passed this wisdom on for many, many, many centuries.
Okay. So we are in a society that wants to hear, see, know, touch. experience with a multitude of their senses.
Yeah.
Would you say that when you work with an individual, they have that type of experiential outcome so that it's not limited to just, okay, I have peace of mind, but in actuality, their entire body just kind of melts into peace and their mind not only is peaceful, but also alert. And what they smell, what they hear, what they see is interconnected on a higher consciousness.
Yeah, I mean, you used a couple of words there that were interesting about peace and alertness, because unlike sleep, in which there's no awareness, and unlike normal waking, in which there's awareness but often not necessarily relaxation, this
Mhm.
fourth state of consciousness combines the opposites of peace and alertness. Some people have called it restful alertness. The body is more rested than it is during the deepest part of a night's sleep, as
Mm.
measured by how much oxygen you're taking in. And there's more awareness, as measured by EEG, brainwave activity.
Yes.
So that's why physiologists have called it a fourth state of consciousness: more restful than sleep, more awake than normal waking. So, a person might smell things more, but I don't want to focus on that, because it's not really. It's really more about awareness rather than awareness of anything. And this is where it gets kind of vague. I understand. It's just pure awareness, not awareness of, like, right now we have awareness of each other. We're looking at the computer
Mhm.
screen and so forth. This fourth state of consciousness, there's not awareness of anything in particular. It's that unbounded awareness within us becomes aware of itself. Or another, that's why I call it higher self healing meditation, because the higher self becomes aware of itself as unbounded.
All right. Now, for me, when we say unbounded, that means that the consciousness is not limited to the physical body, but the consciousness is aware, to use your word, of what is within as well as without. It's connected to all of consciousness. It's more spiritually visceral. I'm gonna make up my own terminology
Mhm.
here.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Was there more? Did you have something? I
Well,
don't mean to interrupt you.
I wanted to get more succinct here because
Okay.
there is some vagueness, and I'd like
Yes.
folks who are watching to really understand that what takes place is not just, oh, I feel calm. Now, I can facilitate hypnosis and somebody can feel calm and they can come back and go, oh, I feel as if I had a vacation. It feels so good. Or you can do meditation just on a very light level and feel very peaceful and calm, very relaxed. What I would really like to make more succinct and get across to folks is what that awareness means. Because when you say awareness of self, it's limited to what the person knows that is at this moment. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This can get very, very vague, because what we're talking about here is really beyond language. Normally, I remember when I first came back from my meditation training course, the first two people I taught were my parents. But before I taught them, I would say, "Mom, who are you?" And she'd say, "I'm your mother. I'm your
Right,
father's
right.
wife." People tend to identify themselves with the role they play in a family or in society, or their political belief or their religious belief, or things of that kind. We're more than just our bodies. We're more than just our minds. We're more than just our feelings. We're more than just our intellectual discriminations, more than our perceptions. What the fourth state of consciousness is where I become aware of that vastness that I am. This is where it gets kind of vague, I understand. But it's as imagine your head expanding. And now obviously your head doesn't expand, but your awareness becomes so big
Mhm.
that you identify yourself for that short time with this huge awareness. Again, not aware of the room, not aware
Right.
of
This
smell,
wanted more clarity so that people understand
Right.
the usual limitations that are perceived when we close our eyes and take a breath, or we do again meditation on a very light level, is not really an apt description for what
Right.
takes place with what you're teaching them. And that's why I went to that awareness from within as well as without, because to me, it has more to do with soul. It has more to do with
Okay.
spirit and the
Right.
universe
Right.
embodied within ourselves.
Right. Right. There's less awareness of your body in this
Right.
stage because that's localized in a way. What, and again, this is really where it gets very vague. It's that awareness. Is that it's our biggest part of who we are,
Mhm.
which has not been open to our awareness for most of our lives. We just think we're this, 6 foot, male or female or what have you. But here in that moment, what we experience is our essence. Use the word soul. That's a good word.
Of
We're,
course.
and
Well,
it's
as
non-physical. It's non-physical. It's just this bigness, this vastness. And what that does is very practical. We come out refreshed. We come out energized. We come out more creative. I know for me, I've so many creative ideas come as a result of this. I know when the Beatles were studying with the guru I studied with, they wrote so many songs as a result of all that. It's a vast reserve and inspiration, as well as a sense of peace. So you come out feeling refreshed, energized, more peaceful, and calmer.
okay. Now you gave out your email before, but people can just go to carriebear.com. Is that
That's right.
correct?
Yeah, they
Okay.
can. That's exactly right. And there's on the toolbar on the top, there's a place for meditation. They can open that up and read about the meditation that I teach. They could read a bio of myself as well.
And again, you have a class coming up when?
This Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern. It's on Zoom, and I can. I even have the ID information I could present if you'd like.
No, I think that
Okay,
that's too much for the moment for people just trying to
sure.
hear.
Yeah, they
And
can. They can call me. Go to.
carriebear.com is probably the easiest way for them to connect with you. And that's
Great.
Carrie, Cary, Bear, BAYER.com.
That's
And you
right.
said you have the information on the top. They can click in respect to meditation. And I'd love to share as well. You have a multitude of books out, and we talk a little bit about creativity and the fact that you go into that beautiful state of consciousness and you come out with more awareness. I think as well, you come out with more confidence when you
Hmm.
meditate like this on a consistent basis. And so
Hmm.
those ideas that someone has had in their back of their consciousness all of a sudden is in the forefront. And I think
Very. Yes.
to have an awareness of that. It's again not just peace. It is not just aware. It is motivating. It is an acuteness that we don't
Hmm.
typically have in our waking state, except for the occasion when someone is in flow state. And that would be that person who, let's say, is climbing a rock, or someone who is doing something like jumping out of a plane. There is a difference in consciousness in that moment. And the meditation that you're facilitating shows them how to connect with that. It's
Right.
a higher aspect of themselves and their, I'm going to say, highest potential as well. Yes?
Yes, but I want to make sure that people understand that to learn the meditation I teach, they don't have to jump out of a plane.
Oh, but I enjoy jumping out of a plane
Okay,
off
well, that's fine. That's fine. But what will happen is that in time, their consciousness will rise to a higher plane
Mhm. So they don't
of
need to jump
consciousness.
out of the plane then because they can just be there.
That's right. Why jump out of a plane when you can be a higher plane?
Or as my mother would say, why do you have to jump out of a perfectly safe plane? That's for another time. All right,
Okay,
I want to give out your web address again. It's Carrie Bayer, and that's CarryBayer.com.
that's right.
Carrie, how many books have you written up to this point?
25, actually. I've written 18 books about personal growth and seven humor books. Because one of the things that meditation does is help bring out more, and it's interesting, as you become more of that universal part of yourself, it also allows you to become more of your individual nature. And I was very blessed to be given, as all of us have been, a sense of humor. And it's one of the principal ways that I interact in the world.
Yeah.
So that has gotten much sharper over the years through meditation.
And folks, when they go on your website, they have access to your books as well, correct?
Yeah, in fact, that's right. I have a book called Higher Self Meditations, which goes into everything we've been talking about and more, except the jumping out of the airplane part.
That's my thing.
I
Trip
know.
and all, I have to be flying around. All right. So, in 60 seconds or less, what is one thing you really want everybody to know?
That meditation can be easy, that you're using about a tenth of your potential. The meditation that I teach will allow you in a natural way to awaken more of that potential. You don't have to wait weeks and months to have experience with it. You will have experience with it in the first 15 seconds, and your life will become increasingly enriched.
All right. Perfect. I'm so glad that you could join me this evening again. It's always such a pleasure. And I know we have to connect otherwise, so I'll give you a holler later. See, we really are friends, folks. Okay. Reach out to Carrie. And if you're thinking, oh, but I missed the email, just remember at Carrie Bear, CarryBeayer.com. And you can get all of his information there. And as for myself, HalleyElise.com. That's HalleyElise.com. Again, Carrie, thanks so much for being on. It's always a pleasure to have you on air, and I'm sure everybody is excited to learn how to do meditation that's easy. Good night, all.